Welcome to Waking Up Tired, Narcolepsy Symptoms Explained, a limited podcast series that gives voice to what narcolepsy symptoms truly feel like from the patient's perspective. I'm Spillane, and I live with narcolepsy type 1 in Australia. My symptoms began when I was 9 years old, but it took 40 years to receive a diagnosis. That delay was shaped by a lack of awareness among medical professionals, something far too many people with narcolepsy experience. Narcolepsy is debilitating and challenging. It reduces quality of life and leads to other major health conditions. This is why I've made it my personal mission to advocate and raise awareness of this sleep disorder. My hope is that by sharing stories like mine and others, we can help people recognise the signs, seek help and get the diagnosis they deserve. One symptom that every person with narcolepsy experiences is excessive daytime sleepiness, or EDS. Now, it's not just feeling tired, it's persistent, overwhelming sleepiness that doesn't go away, no matter how much rest you've had. EDS is often the first symptom to appear, but because it overlaps with so many other conditions, it's frequently misunderstood or misdiagnosed. In today's episode, you'll hear from Belinda, another Australian living with narcolepsy, as she shares what EDS feels like for her and how it affects everyday life, from school to work, right through to raising a family. Meet Belinda.
My name's Belinda, and I'm living with narcolepsy in Australia. I was always tired and have been since high school. I remember being in school and struggling to stay awake during class and having to hold my eyes open so that I could focus and read the blackboards. It was really difficult trying to remember what the teacher was saying, retain the information, write it all down, so the teachers wouldn't notice that I was struggling because I was quiet. I guess that's another thing. So you go unnoticed because you're quiet, where the teachers were more occupied with the kids that were more noisy or acting up in class instead. When I started working full-time, I was working with people that were the same age as my parents, and they would always make jokes about how I was always tired and that I was always yawning and that I should have lots of energy and I should be going out and doing a lot of things, where they were actually the ones going out late, partying a lot, where I just didn't have the energy to do it. During lunch, when I was at work, I would often have to close my eyes in the lunchroom to have a quick cat nap. This sometimes helped. The way I describe it to people so they can understand how I'm feeling is, if you think about having a really big weekend out and not getting a lot of sleep, and then you need to function during the day, like get up early in the morning on Monday and go to work, and you can struggle to get moving. You struggle to concentrate properly. You may find yourself wanting to have a sleep or falling asleep during the day at work. You may have a surge of energy at some point during the day, but that doesn't last. You can't focus properly. You struggle to find words. You might slur your words. You might end up just sitting and staring and being spaced out. And this can last anywhere from 15 minutes to a few hours. Sometimes just sitting quietly will be enough, but other times you need to have a sleep. That can last hours. When I had my kids, the sleepiness became worse, but I didn't realise what it was at this point. I just thought it was being a mum and having to get up at night for the kids or being active with the kids during the day. Then I would often find that I would have to nap with them during the day, and I just felt lazy. It was really difficult when my children were school age, as I had to get up and get them ready for school, but it was often hard just getting up. There were times my daughter would have to come and wake me up and try and get me out of bed so that she wouldn't be late for school. After dropping the kids at school, there were times I'd come home and just go back to sleep for another couple of hours. On days that I was able to function in the morning, I might have gone grocery shopping. And this can be difficult because you could be walking around the supermarket and then the sleepiness can hit you. And then you need to figure out what you need to do to be able to get home and how much longer you have. And this would often mean not completing the shopping and just leaving with what you had. And then I'd get home and put the stuff in the freezer or the fridge and then go and have a sleep. But I'd always be worried that I was going to oversleep and not be able to pick the kids up from school. I would set multiple alarms to make sure I'd wake up on time. There are times that I was too tired to drive, so I would have to organise for a friend to pick the kids up from school. School holidays can be tough because it would take a lot of planning to be able to take the kids out during the holidays. There's an enormous amount of mother guilt when you have to say no to the kids to doing something because you're just too tired, and it's hard for them to understand. It can have a major impact in your day-to-day life. So for me, I can't work because I don't know when I'll get a sleep attack or how often or how long they'll last. Generally, I need to sleep once every day. There are times when I'll wake up, have breakfast, and have to go straight back to bed, sleep for an hour or two, get back up again. And I'll try and do something, but then I may need to go back to sleep again. I didn't really know what was going on. I often went to the doctors to ask them, and they would do blood tests, and they always came back with everything was fine. So I just put it down to me being lazy, especially when I could see my friends who had kids the same age, and they were able to do a lot more than what I was. Other things that are difficult are going on holidays. So you can't plan too much. I can only plan one activity a day, and that's usually not a full day. Sometimes I can push through, but then the following day needs to be a rest day. I remember a family camping trip to Meningie one year for Easter, and I slept through most of the holiday, which is really hard when you've got young children because you want to be able to make memories with them, and you worry that all they'll remember is that mum sleeps all the time. The way I got diagnosed was I actually stopped breathing one night during my sleep, and when my husband woke me up and told me that I'd stopped breathing, that I knew exactly what it was, having worked in pharmacy for all the years that I did. So that's when I went to the doctor and was referred to a sleep specialist to get assessed for sleep apnea. And I was then diagnosed with sleep apnea and am on a CPAP machine, which works, and that's controlling my sleep apnea perfectly. But I was still having the excessive daytime sleepiness. I just thought that that's what it was, and I had no choice, but this was the way that I had to live. And it was only after being diagnosed with the sleep apnea that it all started to make sense. Eventually I went to a different doctor and they sent me for some sleep tests. So then the doctor decided to do the MSLT, and that's when it was discovered that I had narcolepsy and that I wasn't lazy, and the problem is the excessive daytime sleepiness. So while that gave me some understanding on what was going on, it still doesn't make you feel any better. It can be very depressing having excessive daytime sleepiness because you just can't focus on things and you can't plan things because you might be too tired that you have to cancel things or activities. It's not something that ever came to my mind. Or it was in a movie that, people just fall over asleep, which is far from the reality of narcolepsy. So that's why I never would have thought about that. You can't control when it will happen and for how long. It can also be very lonely, and a lot of people don't understand that you can't control needing to sleep. There is medication that can help, which I do take, but I still need to sleep. I still get tired. It still affects me every day. If I didn't have the medication, I would have no life. I had to do all the research myself. I did a lot of Googling, but I think the most helpful information was speaking to other people with narcolepsy, and by there's a Facebook group, the Narcolepsy Australia support group, and they were no end of help and support. There were people who also have narcolepsy, and so we're all able to understand each other and support each other, offer ideas to each other, sympathise with each other. Yeah, that's what really helped.
Thanks to Belinda for sharing her story and shedding light on what excessive daytime sleepiness really feels like. If you're listening and recognising parts of your own journey in what you've just heard today, I encourage you to speak to your doctor. Keep seeking answers. And remember, you're not alone. This podcast does not offer medical advice. It exists to raise awareness, foster understanding, and help others find the diagnosis and support they deserve sooner, not later. Join us next time as we continue exploring narcolepsy through real voices and lived experiences. Thanks for listening to Waking Up Tired, Narcolepsy Symptoms Explained.